All right, we are live. How y'all doing? So, welcome to my channel. You know what I'm saying? Today I'm doing another tech talk. It's a weekly live stream I like to do where I try to introduce, other people that work in the IT field. As you guys know, I've been working in the IT field for a number of years, doing different positions where I try to bring, other people in, so they can, talk about their experiences, and as well as bring information on how people can actually get into the field. So I appreciate all you guys being here. Today's guest is a guy that I found on YouTube. He's been in the IT field for a couple years, you know what I'm saying, and he's worked in networking and all that. He has a YouTube channel, and I kind of wanted to bring attention to it because he's a very knowledgeable brother. He's been, in the field. He's constantly, doing networking and all that good stuff or whatever. and I just wanted to bring him because I know he can, bring some different views to my channel, just to try to help other people get into it. So, how you doing, Paul? Thanks for being here.
Pretty good, pretty good. How about yourself?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. I'm glad you were, able to take the time out to come do this interview. You know what I'm saying? I know people have, lives and all that stuff, family. Um, but I really appreciate you taking the time out to come through and, kick it with me, and we could talk about tech and everything. So, the first thing I like to do is allow you to introduce yourself, as well as, kind of give a little bit about yourself, your background.
Yeah, so I'm a network engineer, and I currently work in Dallas, Texas, and started my network career about 5 years ago. Uh, I started off in, let's say, cell phone management. That was my first IT job. Pretty much started a got my network plus, got into that mobile. It was like a mobile telecom position, and basically I managed their cell phones. That's all I did, and that was my foot into the door. It was not the ideal position, but it was something to get my foot in the door because I had zero experience in 2015 far as like IT goes. So got my foot in the door with that mobile telecom position, and I kind of been going from there since 2015. So that's how I got into IT. But yeah.
Cool, cool, cool. So, and that's another reason why I try to bring people in, because people get into this field, totally different ways. You know what I'm saying? And so I appreciate you sharing that, and letting people know how you kind of got into it. Well, actually, that'll lead into the next question. Can you elaborate a little more on how you actually got into the IT field, or just is it a little bit more?
Yeah, yeah. So I had my story is pretty long, but I won't make it too long. So pretty much, I was actually I moved from Louisiana to Texas in 2011, and I had like $10,000 saved up, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna take this $10,000 and I'm gonna go. We moved in with my brother-in-law in Fort Worth, and he was like, yeah, you can live with me for a little while, and you can study, get your A plus, and you can get into IT, and I can help you out. And I'm like, okay, cool, perfect. And like I didn't realize how fast $10,000 would go because I
Yeah,
mean, within the first 2 or 3 months, that $10,000 was like almost depleted. So uh, I was studying and working on my A plus, and I took the first A plus test in 2012. I took the it was 801. I took it and I passed it, and I was super excited. And my brother-in-law was like, "Man, once you get your A plus, you can get like a help desk job, and you'll be good to go." And I was like, "Okay, cool." So I did that, and I started studying for the 802. And mind you, I had zero experience. This is just me going off of videos and just reading books. And I took the A plus, and I took the 802 A plus, and I failed it. And I was like, "Oh man!" And my brother-in-law was like, "Don't give up." And fast forward a little bit, I kind of gave up. I was like, you know what? I'm not smart enough to do this. I can't do this. This is not my type of work. So at the time, I landed a quality control inspector for an aerospace company, and I was doing that, and I got really really good at it. And I was like, oh, I'm going to keep doing this because this is all like physical stuff. I go inspect parts and certify parts, and I was like, I can do this, right? Anybody can do this, but computer stuff, I can't do that. It's just too hard for me. And and my brother-in-law was like, man, don't give up. Then one day my wife came and she kind of hit me in the face with a little dose of reality. She was like, don't take this the wrong way, but I don't want you don't want to teach your son to just give up on his goals. You remember why we moved out to Texas? We moved out to Texas that way we can get into IT. And I was like, I didn't want to hear it. I took it as like a shot at me. And I'm like, look, I'm doing the best I can. I'm working 16 hours a day. I'm making good money. Look, I was like, just forget about the IT. I don't want to do it. It's too hard. And my brother-in-law came back to me. He was like, what do you really want to do in IT? Like what's your whole like what do you want to accomplish? I said, well, I really want to get into networking. And he was like, okay, so why don't you try to work on the Network Plus? And I was like, okay. So I kind of went to CompTIA's website and looked at it. And I was like, okay, I'm looking at it. I'm like, and then in the midst of me looking at it, I'm seeing that you normally start A plus, then Net plus, then you do Security plus. And I was like, wait, if I couldn't even pass the CompTIA A plus, how in the world I'm going to pass the Network plus? But he was like, man, just give it a shot, give it a shot. And this was 2015. And remind you, I started off in like 2011, 2012 studying for the A plus, and I gave up because I was like, it's too hard. And 2015, I kind of got back on track and started studying for my A plus, for my Network plus, and kind of fell off again because the job I was working, it was like 16 hours a day. I was working like crazy hours, and I was making good money. And I told my brother-in-law, he would check on me every once in a while. He's like, hey, how's it going? I was like, oh man, I'm trying to study, but I don't really have time. I'm working from like 5 o'clock in the morning to like sometime 10 o'clock at night, and like it's long hours, so I can't really have no time to study. Well, the next thing that happened to me, I would say it was good and bad. It was good and bad because I went to work one day and I was working that particular time. I was working the second shift, and I remember my manager was like, "Hey, we got the customers in the parking lot. We need to hurry up. You need to get in here and hurry up and check these parts. That way we can get these parts out the door." I was like, okay, cool. So I'm rushing, and I went to go check this part. And the same day, our maintenance guy was taking this machine apart, and some kind of way he left 480 volts literally just hanging, and it was still alive. And I walked right into it. I didn't even see it.
Oh no.
And it knocked me out, threw me like 5 feet, and I was like completely unconscious. And I remember just seeing blue, and after that I was out. And when I woke up, the little lady that was there, she was like, "Oh my gosh, Pablo, are you okay? Are you okay?" I was like, "What happened?" And from that day, I couldn't work because it messed up my back, messed up my neck, and it suppressed my heart rate for like an entire month. Well, they told me I couldn't work, so I was off of work for 11 months. So the reason why I say it was good and bad was now I'm able to study now, right? So I actually took that opportunity to actually start studying for my Network plus. And I started studying, and I was also doing rehab at the same time because my back was all messed up, my neck was messed up, but I was still able to actually study. So I was actually able to study now. Before I couldn't. So August 15, 2015, I took the Network plus and I passed it. And I mean, I was so excited. I remember that day I went to the testing center and my stomach was bubbling, and I got in there and took it and I passed it. And like 3 weeks later, my brother-in-law was like, "Hey, one of my friends, he's looking for somebody for intro level, but they need to do mobile. It's gonna be like I'm doing cell phone." So I was like, "Oh, I don't care. I'll do it. I'll do it." And he was like, "Okay." So I talked to the guy, and the guy met me at IHOP, and we had like a 3-hour interview. And he was like, even though like he was interviewing me for like a position to do cell phones, he basically drilled me on my networking skills, what I just took, because he found out that I just took my Network plus. So I was like, it was pretty fresh in my mind. So I took it and I passed it, and I actually he offered me the job. And I remember that day, my job I was working at, I was making $13 an hour, but I was making like killer time and overtime. So I actually took a pay cut going to this job because this was only 40 hours a week versus 80 hours a week.
Yeah.
But I was like, okay, I'll still do it. And I remember that my first position, he started me off at $19.24 an hour. And I remember telling my wife, I was like, man, I have no experience and he's paying me almost $20 an hour. I'm like, that's awesome. So like, anyway, fast forward, I actually did that position for like an entire year. And I remember telling my manager, I'm like, I really want to do networking. And he was like, well, we don't have a networking position, but he was like, give me a year and I'll see what I can do for you. And I was like, okay. And within the year, I went back and took my A plus because I started getting a little bit of experience because I was doing mobile telecom, but at the same time, I was also able to do some desktop support and help desk on the side. So that kind of gave me a little bit of real world experience for as like going back to my A plus on the software side. So I went back and take my A plus in 2016 and I passed it. And I was super excited about that because I kind of felt like that cert was kind of like hanging over my head because I didn't pass it. It took me 3 tries to pass that A plus. Like, so I don't know if I told you that in the beginning, but yeah, it took me 3 tries.
Okay.
And I finally got that cert done in 2016. And
now the
I
A
went to my
plus, now the A plus, and I'm sorry to cut you off. The A plus is 2 tests, right?
yes.
Yeah, 2 separate tests.
Yeah, I did good on the actual hardware side because I'm the type of guy like I like to do stuff with my hands. So like I did good on the hardware side, but on the software side, I just could not pass that test. That's why I gave up on it. But I went to my manager again and I was like, hey, I really want to do networking. And he was like, Paul, we just moved you into desktop support. And I was like, I know, but like I really want to do network. And he was like, okay, we'll see what we do. He's like, give me a little bit of time. And I was like, well, in the meantime, the guy I was working with at that company, he was a network administrator. He was like, hey, you should try to start studying for your CCNA.
Yeah.
And again, those thoughts came back to my head. I'm like, man, I couldn't even pass A plus. I barely passed Net plus. There's no way I can do CCNA. And my brother-in-law was like, yeah, CCNA is a little bit harder. So, I mean, you may want to take your time on that one. And I was like, okay. But I was like, you know what? I'm still going to do it. I said, what's the worst thing that can happen? I'm going to just fail it and I can just go back and retake it, right? So
now let me ask you this before you go forward. Networking, what drove you to get into, or what drove you to want to get into the networking? And the reason I'm asking that because I try to tell people they need to kind of figure out what area they want to work in IT. And then kind of focus on that. I guess that's why I'm asking you this. I'm sorry to cut you off, but I just wanted to, ask you before I forgot.
No, so to be honest with you, this may sound a little weird, but like I kind of looked at like what people get paid for like certain positions, and I saw that for like network engineers, you can make good money for depending on what you want to do. I kind of looked at like the market and like, okay, network guys make pretty good money. Security guys make pretty good money. And I kind of like talked to my brother-in-law. I was like, what do you think is best? And he was like, well, it depends on what you like. So I was like, I think I would like networking. And he gave me some little equipment, like some routers and some small routers and little switches. And I was kind of like just tinkling around. I was like, oh man, this is cool. Like I can actually like make this device talk to this device if I do this, do that. And I was like, I think I would like to do that. So it's not like a perfect story. It's like, oh, ever since I was 5 years old, I wanted to do networking, or I wanted to like put things together. It wasn't that for me. It was just kind of like something I kind of started messing with, and I actually enjoyed it, and it kind of went from there. So yeah.
Okay. Cool. So, and I didn't mean to stop you in the middle. If you wanted if you had something else, yeah, I'm sorry.
No, you need to stop me because I would literally talk all day. My wife say I talk too much.
Well, let me ask you this then, and I know this is off the questions that I gave you, but what resources did you use when studying for both of those exams, like the A plus and the Net plus?
So for my A plus, I actually used the Mike Myers book. I used that book, and I actually still have that book sitting here.
Okay.
I think I'm gonna keep that book for forever because that book gave me hell. And I also use his Network Plus book as well. And I use that book as my something to read up on. And far as like videos, I use Professor Messer. Like he has like a really pretty good website, and it's free, so you can't beat free, right? So I use that. And also when I got my position, my manager actually he was like really all about his team getting certification. So I actually used we had an account Pluralsight, and we also had lynda.com. So I had access to that as well. So that was some of the resources I used.
Okay, cool. So let me roll right into this. So if someone was trying to get into IT, where do you think they should start? And what are your thoughts?
Well, I would go back to trying to figure out what you like, trying to figure out what you want to do, and the I know like anytime I'm trying to like study for like a new certification, the first thing I do is go to whatever vendor I'm working on. I go to their website and pull down that objective, and
Mm-hmm.
they have like the blueprint. They have the blueprint of everything that you need to study for, and I kind of go from there. And I use I don't I really don't like reading. I know it's hard to believe from coming from a guy in IT, but I like to use the book as a reference. So like like I said, I'm a hands-on guy. Give me something, show me how to do it, and I can repeat it. And I normally like to watch the video, and if I don't understand it, then I go back to the reference to the book. And I also love to use white pages. Like I'll read white pages when I have to reference back to it, because sometimes inside of a book somebody may want to tell you a whole story and tell it instead of telling you what you need to know.
Mm-hmm.
So every once in a while, like I'll go like to some like white pages and read the white pages on that technology. But I guess it just depends on what you want to do, what you think you'll be good at, and you can always try something for a little while. You don't have to like go into networking and stay networking. You may move over to security because a lot of people are moving over to security from networking. But so far, I like networking, so I think I'm gonna stay there for a little while.
Okay. Cool. So let me ask you this. So how do you keep, your technology skills current? Which, I mean, you kind of already answered it. I mean, it's just, you know, going through and using those resources. But is there anything else you want to, kind of add to that as far as keeping skills current? Because things change, every day
Right.
something new is coming out. So, what are your thoughts?
So what I like to do and what I've been doing since 2015 is I try to get a certification every year. And some people say no, certification is not everything, but certific the track that I took, it seems like every certification I work on is actually a technology that I'm actually working in. So what I've been doing, like I'll tell you a quick little story. In 2017, uh, I started working. The company decided to upgrade all of their firewalls,
Mm-hmm.
and it was Cisco ASA firewalls. And at that time, I was a junior network administrator at my first IT job, and I remember my manager telling me, "Hey, we need to get these firewalls configured." And I was like, "Okay, cool. I got my CCNA now, so I should be able to configure these firewalls." Well, I was in for a rude awakening because CCNA taught me nothing about firewall, and I didn't know that.
Yeah.
so what I had to do was I started looking, trying to learn how to configure these firewalls, and I saw that Cisco had a CCNA security certification. So, and inside the certification, I saw that it kind of taught you about configuring firewalls. So that's what I did. So I basically started studying for my CCNA security, and at the same time, I was able to actually like configure firewalls at the same time. So I was getting real world experience at the same time me studying for my CCNA security, and I took that test and passed it because like I deployed over 20 firewalls and had no knowledge on it. I basically would watch some YouTube videos. I would read some books. I would after that I'll go lab it up because I had the opportunity to have all these firewalls at my desk, and I'll configure them all and get them all working. So I got a lot of hands-on experience at the same time. But I try to get a certification every single year. That's what I try to do to keep myself current.
Cool. Yeah, that's how you got to do, man. Because these technologies keep changing. Things are getting, and that kind of brings up another thing. And I'll probably ask that later. Never mind. Um, but let me roll into the next one, which is degrees or certs or both? And also, do you have a degree as well as,
So
or do you just strictly have certifications?
so my decision may be biased because unfortunately I don't have a degree.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but I feel like uh, a degree is good. And again, I may be biased because I don't have a degree,
Mm-hmm.
but I feel like a degree is good in IT if you want to get into management.
Mm-hmm.
And but like far as I think certifications is better because in a sense that's better because it actually teaches you the current technologies where a degree you may get that degree and by the time you finish it that technology is no more. Where a certification is pretty much like the current technology that you're actually working on. So I say both if you want to end up being like a manager. But if you obviously it looks good on you to have both of them. But at my current state, I don't have a degree. I just have certification. So
Yeah, and I mostly agree with you on that. And maybe I'm a little biased because I do have a degree, but certifications are key in IT because it demonstrates that you have that. Um, it's kind of like a subject matter expert in that specific realm of IT. So, like with Cisco, it's an industry standard. It doesn't matter if you have a degree. Well, it matters if you have those certifications to work on Cisco equipment in order to, excel in the field. So, I agree. So
yeah. So this is just me going off a little bit more about how back into your question about how I keep myself current. Uh, so after I completed my CCNA route and switch, then I did my CCNA security because I had all the firewalls, and then my manager was like, "Hey, we need to start redesigning our network and making it better." So I was like, okay." So I started studying for my CCNP,
hmm
and I took the I studied for a good while, for like a year, and I took the CCNP switch. I failed it twice, and I was like, "Gosh!" But I went back on the third time. I passed it, and then in 2019, I took my CCNP route, and I passed that one the first time. And right after that, Cisco decided they're gonna change up the cert, and I had one more cert left. I had to do the troubleshoot, the T-shoot exam, and I literally only had like 1 month to try to study for that exam, and I took it. I took it on the last day, and I didn't pass it.
hmm
So, and I was like, that's fine. But the way that Cisco did it, it was pretty say if you took the route and switch, and if you pass it before February 24th, you would get the Encore. So that's what I currently have right now. I have the Cisco Certified Specialist Enterprise Core, and right now on my current position, I'm actually working on deploying Cisco SD-WAN. So I'm actually studying for the Cisco SD-WAN test, which is going to complete my CCNP Enterprise and also give me the Cisco SD-WAN specialist certification. So that kind of ties into me, like as I work on something, I try to get certified in it. So
hmm
that kind of ties back into your question on how do you keep current. So
Okay, well, let me ask you this though. With Cisco, and I'm not, you know, well versed in Cisco, equipment, working with Cisco equipment. I worked with it a little bit. I never took any of the tests or whatever, but I know it kind of evolves around physical, switches, routers, and all that stuff. Well, how is the cloud affecting Cisco equipment? And that's one thing I've been wanting to ask somebody that works in as a Cisco admin or a network administrator that works on Cisco equipment.
well, I can tell you right now, like the way that we are actually deploying our Cisco SD-WAN, it also they just brought Victella, so we're using the Victella solution, but uh, our whole entire like infrastructure is actually going to be inside Cisco Cloud. So
Okay.
like everything that we configure is going to be in Cisco Cloud, which is called like vManage, and all of our configurations actually sits in the cloud. So when it's time to deploy a device, you just push those configs from that cloud into your remote sites, and then bring up all your sites online. So that is part of automation that the SD-WAN is bringing into our environment currently. So automation is definitely something that's pretty big right now. So
Mm-hmm. And virtualization as well, right? Or
yes, absolutely, because uh, that solution is is virtualization is in Cisco's cloud. So
okay,
absolutely.
cool. So yeah, it's kind of like the whole Azure thing. I didn't know if Cisco was, you know, going down that route. I mean, I'm pretty sure they have to because they have to keep up with, the way everybody else is going. To be honest, I mean, everybody is going to the cloud. You got Azure, you got AWS, all that good stuff. So
Yeah, actually, Cisco actually utilizes AWS as their cloud. So
okay,
all that is in Cisco actually use AWS for their cloud. So
I didn't know that. Okay. See,
yep.
I'm so far removed from networking. It's been like the last time I touched any Cisco equipment was 2009, I believe.
Okay.
I was a network administrator for a school, and I didn't really know what I was doing, to be honest. But I went in and tried to figure it out, and I figured it out. You know what I'm saying? The figs and all that stuff. Like I said, I'm not great at messing with Cisco equipment, but that's why I wanted to ask you. But so let me roll right into the next thing I like to ask. Well, actually, they had a question in the chat that I wanted to get to before I miss it. It says, ask him about Cisco F5 AFM firewall. Do you know what that is?
Oh, FMC. I think he meant
Oh, it must be.
FMC.
Okay.
So okay. So that's a good segue into my next little story I had. I actually had the opportunity at my first company to actually deploy a Cisco FMC.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, So that was a pretty cool technology. Same exact concept as SD-WAN, to where we had like a physical equipment, which is a Cisco FMC firepower management console. You put all your configurations there, and when you go to deploy, like let's say you want to do some URL filtering or malware protection, you can actually configure it on that FMC, then push it out to all of your devices. So I actually had a good bit of experience actually deploying the FMC into our network as well. So that's something else that I actually worked on. That's a pretty cool technology. I mean, some people say that Cisco messed up because that came from SourceFire, but uh, I felt like it's pretty cool technology. I liked it because like you don't have to worry about trying to go configure 18. Like at the time, I had like 20 sites. I don't have to worry about trying to go configure a URL on 20 different firewalls. I can just push it down from one device, and it actually deploys it to every device.
Okay.
So
Is that so? That's kind of like I don't know if you ever heard of Ansible. Have you
yes, I
heard
have
of
an
Ansible?
Ansible.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's kind of the way Ansible is. You could push out configurations to servers and also Cisco equipment. I think I've read that in the documentation. But
Yes.
anyway, that kind of goes to my next thing. My next, I guess, kind of like little portion. Cause my channel, I try to always talk about Linux. Cause that's my niche. That's something that I do. You know, really, it's almost like a hobby because I don't even do it in my current jobs in IT. But I'm just so interested in Linux that I do it during my off time and around studying for other stuff. But since my channel, is mainly about that, I try to, ask a few questions about it, like how important is knowing Linux, in your job.
So in my job, I would say it's good to know it, especially because we have like the Cisco Nexus 9K switches, which is based off of Linux, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't mess with those a whole lot because that's more now data center. Our other engineers mess with that. I'm more like on the branch side, but I'm starting to work a little bit more in the data center. Uh, so I think it's really important to actually know Linux. I actually have that's something I'm actually trying to learn on the side right now. But obviously, my SD-WAN certification is little bit more important right now at my current state. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually trying to actually learn a little bit of Linux because most of your devices, the backbone of it is Linux. So it's good to know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's why I try to, I don't know, talk about it because it's another aspect of IT that's not really, kind of talked about, and so well, it's talked about, but not as much in my opinion where it needs to. I don't know, where some people need to at least get an understanding of how Linux is, because a lot of things are going in that direction. In my opinion, I see it, gaining a lot more market share as far as, operating systems and all that stuff. But oh, I'm sorry,
Yeah,
you
I
was
can
finna say
take.
something? Go ahead.
Yeah, I can tell you. I can tell you right now. Like every once in a while, I kind of just look at the job market and kind of see like what they're looking for. And under every network position they want you to know Linux, they want you to know Python,
Mm-hmm.
some programming language. So like everybody's actually looking for somebody that knows Linux or Python or any type of programming language if you're wanting to be a network engineer at their company. So that's what I
Cool.
see a lot, especially here in Dallas.
And I'm glad you brought up the whole programming thing, and that's normally my next question, which is, how important, or do you know any programming languages, or do you work with any programming languages, and also, do you have any recommendations on programming languages people should, learn as far as to help them get into, those positions if need be.
Yeah, so I know a little bit of Python, not a whole lot. I've been dabbling in it, and as we work on like projects at my job, I try to implement some a little bit of Python, try to find some little scripts to help configure switches and all that. But I think knowing Python is pretty good. They have this website that's called Python Institute, and it's online and is actually free. You can sign up for it, and that's what I've been using to learn. And it kind of starts you off from like zero, and it kind of walks you through, and it kind of like teaches you how to configure, how to do the basics of Python.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a pretty good resource that I'm actually using right now. I try to do like right before I was studying for my SD-WAN, I was doing like an hour a day, just kind of messing with it. Like I said, I'm still green to it, but I'm definitely trying to learn Python because that's you can definitely use that in networking for sure.
Exactly. And I'm glad you pointed that out. I'm finna drop that link in the chat. So if anybody's interested in learning Python, I've used that site before as well, Python Institute. So I dropped it in the chat for anybody that's interested in learning Python. But so um, I guess the next thing I like to, I guess, go into is and I kind of pretty much asked some of these questions as far as, and well, you kind of brought up those topics, and I was trying to save them, to the end. But IT automation, what I'm saying, how do you think that's going to impact your job in the future? Because it's new people coming into the IT field, and it may be good to hear from somebody that's in it, um, on what their thoughts or on how automation will impact the jobs, in the future, as well as, currently,
So here's my thought on this whole automation thing. Automation is awesome. Automation is good, but someone still has to be there to fix something when automation doesn't work. Because like obviously, I mean, automation is a really good thing, and everybody's moving to automation. And uh, I always say that. Uh, I'm trying to think about a way to say it without sounding like I'm being biased. Uh, Automation and networking is awesome, but obviously we know we can't automate desktop support.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we can, but you can't. Like, so like they gonna always need desktop support people. So I guess when you coming into IT, you got to figure out what you want. Like, if you want to do like strictly like networking, a lot of the networking tasks like that Cisco SD-WAN is being automated to
Mm-hmm.
where like now we can deploy a branch and bring a branch up online in 30 minutes because we already have all the templates configured already. It's already configured. We don't need anybody to go in there and type in all the jump into the CLI and actually start configuring all the devices. You can just plug the device up and it has some basic configurations already on it. And once it reaches uh like VBON, which is the Cisco SD-WAN solution, it pre-configures that device.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess it's just depending on what field you're gonna actually go into that automation is actually gonna affect that field.
Okay. And then also, do you have any experience using Ansible? Have you actually tried it, or is that something that they use at your company? I know they use it at my job. I've seen them use it. They create playbooks and all that stuff, and I've actually been involved in creating playbooks for like SQL servers that were spinning up and all that good stuff. Have you? Um,
So I actually haven't worked on Ansible. The network engineer that I actually work with, he actually uses Ansible a good bit to like go in and change like some SNMP strings and stuff like that. So yeah, we use it at our company. I haven't used it yet. So, but
okay.
it's definitely in production. Like it's definitely being used. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
To
Yeah.
automate tasks to kind of go fix things in the network. So
Yeah, and and I'm sorry I didn't kind of respond um, to what you stated. I do agree with you. There are gonna be a lot of jobs that are still needed. It's not gonna like impact where a whole bunch of jobs are gonna. Well, I think some jobs are gonna go away, but they're gonna be replaced by other types of IT jobs, and if
right.
if they're affected by automation. So I agree with you. But so I was just gonna ask you really about cloud computing, but you kind of already jumped into that when we were talking about the Cisco cloud. I asked you that earlier. But do you have any other thoughts on cloud computing? I mean, you think people should study that, I guess, as well, because that's being implemented every day. So,
Yeah. So I can tell you right now, like at my current company, excuse me, we were we got a new CIO and he's all about putting everything in the cloud.
hmm
So like right now we are like we got to actually start training on AWS to actually start putting a bunch of our stuff in the cloud. Like all of our websites gonna be hosted off AWS. So uh, definitely something that people should learn, and definitely something I'm gonna be learning after I finish my SD-WAN certification. That's gonna be the next thing I'm gonna be working on because that's what we're going to. Everything is kind of going to the cloud. So
yeah, yeah, definitely. And so I mean, well, never mind. That's probably a little off topic, but
no,
um,
go ahead. Go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say, what do you think? Well, I don't know. Currently, AWS I know is I guess the top cloud provider at the moment. Is it because, or do you guys think that they're moving things well, that might be a little too personal for your job. I don't want to get into why they chose AWS, but I know um, AWS is kind of like the main cloud provider at the moment, and
I think
I see Microsoft overtaking them pretty soon. And the reason I say that because I do DoD contracts, and uh, they use Microsoft products heavily, and I know they're gonna move to Microsoft to keep everything, based on what I've seen and like reports I've seen that came out and all that stuff. Uh, So I think there'll be a heavy contract, you know what I'm saying, for Microsoft. So I think they might start to take over. Is it? I guess what I'm trying to ask is, uh, which one do you think either one of them is better than the other? I mean, it's all the.
You know what? That's a good question. I know Azure has been out for a while.
Mm-hmm.
I think Amazon may have a little bit of an edge just because their billing is so easy. I think I hear a lot of people saying like Amazon billing is so easy when it's time to like spin something up, you don't get charged unless you use it. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a whole lot of experience with the cloud
Mm-hmm.
stuff, but uh, everything I hear, people use Amazon because the billing is so easy. So
Okay.
whatever that means.
Yeah, yeah, I got you. And based on my experience, because I work for a company as well, in Texas, where I lived in Houston for about 5.5 years or so. And actually, I was gonna tell you this when you mentioned it earlier, but I didn't want to interrupt you. But I'm from Louisiana as well. I'm from
Oh,
Baton
really?
Rouge. Yeah, I'm from Baton Rouge.
You know what? I now that you say that, I hear your accent
Yeah,
because
it comes and goes, man, because I've been away
yeah, yeah,
for a while.
yeah.
But yeah, man.
Yeah,
Um,
I was actually around New Iberia, Lafayette. I
okay,
grew up in that area, so yeah.
cool, cool, cool. Yeah,
I still
so
remember. I still remember when we were able to go to Baton Rouge. That was like a big treat for us. We felt like, because Baton Rouge was like big time for us when when we lived in Louisiana. So
yeah,
it's pretty
yeah,
cool.
yeah. This it's the same thing for Baton Rouge. You know, living in Baton Rouge. You know, going to the city, so to speak, is going out to New Orleans.
Yep, yep,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. But so I mean that's pretty much what I got for the interview, man. And what I like to do at the end of it is kind of get people to ask questions. If anybody's still around, they got any questions, I guess networking or Cisco questions, just put them in the chat, and I'll try to see if Paul can answer for you guys. Um, but yeah, man, that's cool though. We got something in common, you know what I'm saying? That's
Yep,
cool. Yeah.
absolutely.
How you like living in Dallas though? Is it?
Man, I can tell you, it was a big culture shock coming to Dallas because I still remember my rent being like, I lived in a little area called Avery Island where they make Tabasco sauce.
Oh
I actually
yeah,
grew up there.
I know where
Uh,
Avery Island is.
I was actually born and raised there, so I remember I actually worked there for like 4 years, and my daddy worked there and he retired there, and I had a little house out there, and I was paying like $150 a month. So
Wow.
when I came to Texas and I saw the rent, I was like, oh my gosh. So, but other than that, I love it in Texas. It's hot like hell, but like I still love it. So
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this then. I mean, um, do you think you would have had to leave Louisiana in order to kind of excel in the IT field? Because
that's a good question, and I actually have a friend who's actually in New Orleans. He lived in New Orleans, and he actually moved out of Louisiana to come to Texas because they didn't really have a whole lot of jobs out there, or like the jobs that they did have out there, they didn't pay a lot at all.
mm-hmm.
So I I can't say for sure, but I know that right now, like looking at jobs in Louisiana, like I wouldn't even get out of bed for what they want to pay you.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if that answers your question. I know
Nah, it does.
Texas is like a tech hub, so like they have a lot of jobs out here. So
Hmm. Yeah, and I mean that's kind of one of the reasons I left, and I guess that's why I'm asking that question because I was trying to get in the IT field. I actually started out. I went to Remington College. I don't know if you heard of it, but it's in Baton Rouge.
yes.
But I think they
Hmm.
closed down now. But yeah, I went to Remington College. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I had joined the army, um, and came back. I joined the reserves. Came back. I didn't know what I wanted to get into. So I just went to the Remington College thing, and it was like, oh, we got a networking program. I was like, okay, whatever, I'll hop into that. So that's how I kind of got into the whole thing. But most of the jobs down there that make a lot of money, man, um, you either gonna you gonna be working in a chemical plant, you know.
Right. Right.
That's real
Yeah.
big down there.
Yes.
My dad actually retired from Exxon Mobil in Baton Rouge. He did 30 something years and retired. And I could have got on, you know what I'm saying? But I remember growing up, you know, him coming home smelling like all them chemicals and stuff. I didn't want to do that, man. I mean, I respect it, you know, but I didn't want to, I don't know, go down that same path or whatever. So
I can tell you from my experience, I lived in Louisiana for 21 years, and everybody I knew worked in the oil field or worked offshore.
yep.
Like that it seems like everybody did that. And that was like, if you want to make good money, you go work offshore for 2 weeks and you be off for 7 days and you go back for 2 weeks. Or you work for Halliburton, Schlumberger, or Chevron, or some offshore company. It seems like everybody did that. So yeah, that kind of goes back to your daddy did the same thing, chemical plants. So
You know? But hey, I got one question for you right here. Well, it's actually two. I'm gonna ask this first one. Chico, actually, we kind of answered that earlier. I don't know if you want to elaborate on it again a little bit. Do you see it? It says, do you think with everything going to the cloud that jobs like networking and system administration, I would say moving out? I think that's what he's saying, moving out or going away, basically. It's the same, I guess, question I kind of asked you earlier about the cloud. How you think
yeah.
those jobs would be affected, you know?
So I can tell you now that like right now, like all of our stuff is moving to the cloud, but like we still need to do some daily tasks. Somebody still gotta work on circuits going down, calling the ISPs, dealing with the ISPs, having to actually fail over a circuit. And so yes, the cloud is the I feel like the cloud is going to be more to make your company more resilient, but somebody still have to be there to monitor it and make sure that everything is still working. So like we can have automation all day, but if something breaks, who's going to fix it? They may not have as many network administrators in the company, but I mean, you still need somebody to actually like watch the door, right? So that's my answer to that.
Exactly. Yeah. So, do you have any like cybersecurity experience or anything like that, or intrusion
I don't
detection, or?
actually. I said I don't, but actually a little bit. I actually when I worked on Cisco Firepower, we did all of the IPS, IDS, and I actually implemented all that. So I have a little bit of experience. It's getting kind of old now because I don't really do it a whole lot more, but just a little bit, yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, let me ask you this this other question from Professor Black Ops. He says, basically, do you put compliance on the Cisco STIG, NSA, or CIS implementation? Do you know what he's talking about? I mean,
I'm not
I
sure
know what STIGs are.
if he can elaborate a little bit more on that.
I know
When he
STIGs
said,
are like how they I guess check for compliance or make sure you're following the, I guess, the standards that they have in place as far as
I guess that would that would I feel like that would go back into effect depending on what kind of company you work for.
mhm.
If you work for a company that don't really have any, like they don't have to have that much compliance, then it I feel like it just depends. It depends on what kind of company you work for. If you're working in government, and obviously you need to be
Yeah,
compliant a lot of stuff
yeah.
that you do. But
The
so
private
yeah,
sector is a little different though. I get
yeah,
what you're saying.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that the company I was working for previously, like we started getting the reason why we started upgrading our firewalls. It was because like the contracts that we had, they would they started sending us these questionnaires, like 150 questionnaires, and say, hey, do you have this in place? And And most of the stuff was like, no, we don't have this. So we had to actually start like upgrading our firewalls and putting in like to where you're encrypting data at rest and all that stuff. So like it just depends on what company you're working for, what kind of contracts you have. Depends
Mm-hmm.
on the what way your company is going to take. Depends on if your company want to keep that business, they going to make sure that we stay in compliance, right? So
Yeah, yeah, because I know there's
that makes sense.
a lot of standards that have to be held, especially when talking about data. You know what I'm saying? Like customers' data as well as the business's data. So certain standards have to be held. So especially on the private sector, which that's about as far as my knowledge goes on that because I've been working in government sector for a while. Uh, oh,
And
he's
yeah,
oh
I've
he's
been on the private side. So
oh go ahead. Yeah, yeah. So, but yeah, on the government side, I know they do those checks like every 6 months or so. And Professor, Black Ops said, "I'm the guy that sends the questionnaire." That's why he was asking.
oh, okay. Yeah, so he's the guy who's causing the problem. But at the end of the day, making another company better. So yeah.
hmm Yeah, but Professor Black Ops, man, I'm gonna have to get you on, man, so you can, talk about that. If you don't mind, man, just send me an email, and I could try to get you on. We could talk about that sector of IT that you're in. So, but since we don't have any more questions, man, I'm gonna go on and end it. Like I tell you, I try to keep it about an hour at least. You know what I'm saying? But no, I really appreciate you taking the time to come on. I hope this helps somebody. You know what I'm saying? Paul's got a lot of information. You guys need to go check out his channel. Let me actually drop his channel link in the chat. And I know you just started your channel, right? I would say a couple
Yeah,
weeks ago, right?
yes sir. Yeah.
Yeah. And I found him just by watching his videos. It showed up in my feed because I'm always watching tech stuff. So, um, and anybody I see that, especially you can kind of tell when someone knows what they talking about, I try to, support them, share they channel. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to bring Paul on. You know what I'm saying? I definitely appreciate you, coming on and hopefully we can get you a couple subscribers out of this. You know what I'm saying? It's
Yes sir.
I got a small, I guess, audience. I like I said, I only started these live streams not that long ago. It's my 8th one. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm not one of these live stream type of people. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Where, yeah, I'm not a public speaker, so to speak. Um, but I try to help out other people as best I can.
But you know what? I always say that that's when you know you're trying to better yourself when you step out your comfort zone. So
Hmm
like it's easy to do nothing, right? But if you want to be better, you put yourself out there and make yourself uncomfortable. And at the end of the day, you become better. So this is good.
Yeah, appreciate it, man. Appreciate it. But like I said, I definitely appreciate all you guys, coming through and hanging out with us. I appreciate you guys. And of course, keep it techie.
All right. Thanks. Appreciate it. Thanks.
All right, cool. So I